The session is being chaired by Mr. Harish Chopra, the Vice President and Head, India Gold Policy Center, IGPC IIMA. Mr. Chopra is a CA. He's been a Bullion partner with Scotia Bank with over 3 decades of experience in banking and finance across diversified portfolios and industries. For the last 3 years, he's with IGPC IIMA. Our other speakers joining him on the stage this morning are Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, the head bullion for MCX. Doesn't need a lot of introduction in the house, you're already aware. And he's a director of MCX, IBX, and at MCX. 17 years with MCX has been a part of several path-breaking innovations and successful product launches. And since 2021, he's been a director at IIBX as well. And IIBH is working along with other directors towards redefining the bullion ecosystem in India. Our next speaker this morning would be Mr. Harish Acharya. We popularly know him as Vasubhai, owner of Parker Bullion and managing director of Parker Precious Metals LLP. He's been connected with precious metals for over 26 years and has been on several advisory committees of Government of India and provides his input and suggestions on policy matters. Ladies and gentlemen, as I invite all of these speakers, as I read out their profiles, I invite them to please start moving towards the stage. Our next speaker this morning on this panel is going to be none other than Mr. Chirag Thakkar, the director Amrapali Industries, with over 13 years of experience in import of precious metals. If you were there at the awards ceremony yesterday, Amrapali has bagged not one, but 2 simultaneous honors in gold and silver, and Amrapali has been awarded the best bullion dealer pan-India 4 times in a row. And Amrapali also owns one of India's reputed gold refinery, the Gujarat Gold Center. I would start requesting all of our speakers to kindly start moving towards the stage. Mr. Anshuman Sharma, our next panelist this morning, is a head on precious metals trading, ME, and Indian subcontinent at StoneX since 2013. An experienced professional with a demonstrated history of setting up businesses and managing multinational startups successfully. Our next speaker would be Mr. Ravi Ramakrishnan, Head Precious Metals Trading for JP Morgan for Asia Pacific region, and he's been with JP Morgan for 15 years now after passing out of IIM Ahmedabad in 2008. Our final panelist this morning, Mr. Mohammad Ayyob, is an experienced director skilled in negotiation, budgeting, business planning, operations management, and sales with a strong professional network and a bachelor degree focused in marketing and marketing management. He has worked in Brinks for almost 8 years and has been with Sam Precious Metals and is presently the GM at Sam Precious Metals. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a resounding round of applause for all our speakers that have found their way to the stage? And now, of course, I leave the stage in the very able hands of our chairperson, Mr. Harish Chopra. Gentlemen, you have cumulatively 40 minutes of deliberation and question answers.
Warm welcome to you to this important session, and I'm feeling really privileged to be part of this as a moderator here today with my friends on the dais, all eminent personalities from the trade, from within India and overseas, and leaders in their respective markets. Coming to the subject today, basically, like, we are talking about the bullion market trends that we have seen in the last year, and to run through the process and run through this I will run a couple of slides. So let's look at some numbers. In 2022-23, that's the financial year I'm talking about, India imported about 678 tons, which is almost 23% lower than the last year. And that was, I think it was obvious that after a bumper 2021, calendar 21, when the imports were almost 1,000 tons, some cool down was expected. But that has been the trend. And then there are various reasons. The bigger worrying factor is the way the markets were in discount for most of the period. In 2022-23, in fact, I think there's the first time in the history we have seen almost about 5 to 6% of the times when the markets were actually in premium, and rest of the times they were in discounts. So we are going to discuss about what could be the reasons for that. So looking at some of the reasons why the lower demand, was it actually the lower demand in the market that the imports were lower? Because India has predominantly been dependent on the imports for meeting its requirements for the local markets. And the import numbers are definitely an indicator how the the demand is playing out in the market. When we talk about lower demand, generally we associate it with the prices. If you look at the prices, that this chart actually shows you a month-on-month comparison between 22 and 23, so a financial year. So if you look at this, the prices have remained in the same trajectory over these 2 years. So I don't think the pricing has anything to do. They remained within 1750 to 1950 all through this time. Then digging it further, some people attribute it to a wiser management of inventory by some of the leading jewelers. So they kind of rationalize their inventories. The other reason could be a greater flow of illicit gold in the system. And some people also mentioned about larger scrap flows, especially from the gold loan companies. I have my own views on that because when the prices are higher, I generally don't see any reason why would somebody be closing down on their loans. And so that's a time when they actually build up their books. So is this going to be the new norm? And what implication does it have for the bullion trading business in India and overseas markets? And the overseas market who are feeding into the Indian markets. So with that, I will invite the opening remarks from each of you, starting with Chirag Bhai. So Chirag Bhai, I would request that if you can focus on the points which we have discussed, and while giving your opening remarks, we have about 2 minutes for each of the speakers.
So, if you see post-COVID, so I'll just go a couple of years back before we come to 22, 23. So, if you see post-COVID, the trend of the demand has been changed. We have seen lots of purchasing capacity coming out in the market. The demand has already been there, but the major focus would be the trend which has been changed, that are we able to adopt that same change into the market. Higher prices is obviously one of the major reasons, but if you see the trend from 2021, 22, 23, we have not been in a constant market where 365 days we are in premium or we are in discount or there is a demand overall. Obviously, there is a flow of demand which comes into the market every month or maybe every couple of months, where there is a slight discount which is turning to a premium, and again the demand is not there into the market. So these are the couple of factors which is affecting the market. But down the line, when we complete this whole year, maybe we will be able to check in front that why the trend has been changing.
So Chirag Bhai, since you have been the largest silver dealer in India, so you feel free to give any perspective
Yes,
on
so
silver as well.
if you also see for the silver market, the all of the sudden high prices has always been a major factor for the silver, because silver is very price sensitive. We already seen the major highs, all-time highs into the Indian market in our Indian rupee. At the same time, if you see there's over and above stock which is coming into the market from the resale side, from the investment side. So these are all the factors which are majorly considered for the silver market as well. But in the silver market, I'm very much positive. Maybe by next couple of months, we'll be able to see demand coming in, and we'll be able to see premiums coming into the market.
And do you think any of the reasons which we mentioned had anything to do with the performance in the 20 to 23 when it comes to import, especially of gold?
See now, if you see, TRQ was one of the major thing which was happened last year, and this year we are seeing more bullion traders coming into the market. At the same time, it is still very tough to come into the market and say, okay, let's say we are expecting that in next 3-4 months after the new TRQ holders will come into the picture and there'll be again some level of discounts in the market, but we have not seen that yet. I think that kind of a effect is yet to come, and we'll be able to see. But the demand is still there, and we are very much optimistic where we'll be able to sustain and end the year with the premium.
Anshuman, moving on to you. I think it's the only one which works. So see, if I look at China, premium and discount, so Chinese markets are mostly in premium over the last year. How about Dubai? How did Dubai fare, and other markets which you cater to? And is that the trend everywhere?
Firstly, good morning, everyone. I think internationally the trends have been, price sensitive to an extent, and of course, I think China is a unique example, and I think it cannot be used as a benchmark for other markets because obviously the guidelines under which the gold is imported there is different. I think Ravi is the right person to talk about that. But in other parts of the world, I think we've seen the demand for gold has been there. Of course, the demand for gold is a relative term because it depends on the performance of other asset classes. Of course, the interest rates going up has its own impact on the gold, and the cost of doing the transactions have gone up. So I think that's something which is probably not seen or appreciated so much in India because of the way the business model operates here. But we do see the impact of it elsewhere. Of course, the demand for investment bars continues to be strong. I mean, I know that last few months have been slow in some parts of the world, but otherwise, post-COVID, I think that's a significant trend that we have observed.
Thank you. Ravi, moving on to you. So you can provide some perspective about the global markets and how's been your experience when it comes to Indian market. Considering that you had faced this situation of markets being in discount most of the time, and that's a tough time indeed for you.
I think again, post-COVID or even before that, I think the Indian market's import window has become a lot more shorter. It's not largely been a 365-day window. I mean, it was there at some point in the past, but especially post-COVID, it's really not been like a 365-day window for imports of gold. And particularly for imports of, say, LBMA gold bars through the overseas suppliers like banks like ourselves. So the imports can potentially come through the Dore form, or now, especially since SEPA, can potentially come through UAE as well. So how we look at it is there is obviously a seasonality or a cyclicality to the business. So what we have done as Bullion banks is try to be smart in terms of readiness of stock. We might have a very short period of time to cater to the market. So at those times, we probably should have higher levels of stocks, and there could be periods of lull when the stock is, we need to be smart about keeping lower stocks and managing that. And we also cater to other markets. So if I can give the perspective of, say, the other consumption markets in within Asia, like you mentioned, China has been at a premium, but the China premium is also a function of how much import quota the banks in China have. And that has not always been plentifully available. So the reason for the China market premium is also the inability of the banks to import, because the PBOC has not given import quota to all the banks at the same time. So broadly speaking, I would say even if you look at China, while the premiums market might suggest it is in a premium, that doesn't necessarily probably imply that gold is going in large amounts into China through especially as kilo bars, as direct import by the banks. So the India market has certainly, the window for imports or premium has certainly narrowed, but we are adjusting to that and acting accordingly.
Thank you. Ayyob, specifically about Dubai, what's been your experience lately?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me on the panel. I would agree with what my colleagues have said about it could be the new norm after the COVID. I would maybe say the price fluctuation has played a major role in this. Maybe it enhanced the domestic or local recycled market. Possibly between the price fluctuation, people start buying and selling locally. That's why maybe there internationally has not been that big movements or importation. Let me talk a little bit about the Dubai market. I will take this opportunity to speak. Here in our side of the world, things have been changing drastically. The UAE have been really supportive in coming out and and do the SEPA relationship with India. They're trying as much as possible to push and enhance the industry. At the same time, we were playing a major role as a UAE refineries, complying with the new rules and regulations, which is to do with the supply chain and responsible sourcing and FATF and anti-money laundering. I think we're doing very well into that side of the business and able to enhance more possibilities and create more channels for the international markets. But overall, I think for the new demand, I think this could be the new norm. I don't see anything to do more with the flow of illicit gold, for example, or maybe could be a little bit more on the implications of bullion trade business. Could be in the rules and regulation. Maybe it needs a little bit of to be re-looked at and able to make it a little bit easier, maybe to do business. Possibly this can be maybe answered by other colleague of mine who are based in India market. Thank you.
Moving to my Indian friends now. Vasu bhai, specifically, first of all, do you agree with all these reasons? And I want your comments mostly on that point number 2, illicit gold. When I talk about illicit gold, so it's a wider coverage, not only smuggling, but you have multiple windows of custom duty under which potentially you can import. We're not going into what is right or wrong, but did you face that situation?
बेसिकली मैं आपको जस्ट एक बात बता देता हूं कि आपने जो अभी क्वेश्चन किया था उसका एक, क्योंकि लास्ट ईयर क्यों डिमांड नहीं रहा, तो आप ऐसा सोच रहे हैं कि क्यों कटा, तो आप देखेंगे कि जनवरी, फरवरी, मार्च ये महीने में आपका गोल्ड प्राइस हो गया था $2000 और $1600 से $2000 का एक हाइक आया था लास्ट मार्च से लेके दिसंबर तक का, तो उसके कारण एक ये हुआ था। दूसरा चीज हुआ था कि गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने हॉलमार्किंग ज्वेलर्स के लिए मैंडेटरी कर लिया था, तो ज्वेलर्स का अकाउंटेबिलिटी बहुत बढ़ गया था। तो इस दौरान क्या हुआ था कि ज्वेलर्स को अपना जो अकाउंटेबिलिटी है वो परफेक्ट करने के लिए डिस्टॉकिंग भी करना पड़ा है, क्योंकि वो जितना प्रॉपर कॉम्प्लायंस इस सोर्स पे जाएंगे तो उतना वो प्रॉपर अपने आप को बिजनेस को समझ सकेंगे। तो उसके हिसाब से उन्होंने डिस्टॉकिंग भी किया है और उसके कारण भी डिमांड कम हुआ है। तो आप देखेंगे कि जनवरी, फरवरी, मार्च महीने में $30-40 तक का डिस्काउंट इंडिया में हुआ था। तो ये चीज भी क्यों हुई, क्योंकि ज्वेलर्स जो अपना एडिशनल स्टॉक है वो बेच रहे थे, हाई प्राइस भी था, उनको बेनिफिट भी था और उनको एक नया अकाउंटेबिलिटी, क्योंकि मैंडेटरी हॉलमार्किंग सिस्टम में जाना था, तो इसी के कारण डिमांड का एक फॉल आया था। वो बात ठीक है। अभी दूसरी बात जो आपने अभी पूछी,
मेरा इसमें एक व्यू पॉइंट और है, जुलाई में जब हमारा कस्टम ड्यूटी बढ़ा 10 से 15%, अगस्त और सितंबर में
सर वो सिल्वर में बढ़ा है, गोल्ड में नहीं बढ़ा है। लास्ट जुलाई में बढ़ा है, पर उस टाइम से जो डिमांड का फॉल है वो आप दिसंबर, जनवरी, फरवरी में ही देखा है।
यस, थैंक यू। शिवांशु,
Thanks, Harish, and very good morning to all. If you can play those points once again, I think on the street, I think all of them can be summed up under a broader head or headline of arbitrage. And arbitrage is something which markets find their own equilibrium over time. But having said that, I've been associated with other metal industry as well, copper, aluminum. There has to be a consistency in policy. Policy should be more of a, Rahul Dravid type of format rather than Virendra Sehwag. Although I'm a big fan of Sehwag, but the point is that if we keep having, punctuations, with no visibility of a broader intent, then there are going to be problems. You see, and I also speak on behalf of IIBX here. So, if IIBX is truly going to be successful, then these disparities have to be slightly out of the way.
We will talk about that
Yes,
as
allow me. So, the other thing is that, being a leading exchange, it is incumbent upon us to be all terrain and all weather. And the points which you mentioned here about, jewelers who have a old, recycled gold business. Let me tell you, all the leading jewelers who are even listed entities who have this model, they are able to hedge on the platform. And it being a duty price paid contract always helps. From a fixed percentage, we moved in 2014, I believe. So the sensitivity of the contract in terms of a wider participation, financial side, physical side, it helps because the duty, the moment it changes fortnightly, it reflects. So these things are hedgeable. However, we need to also look at a consistent policy around this. While all metals have this free trade agreement stuff, but here we should not allow it to be plagued, an industry to be plagued by inconsistency. Slightly strong words, but that is what I feel.
Thank you. So moving on, coming to the specific points now. So how to deal with the inflow of illicit gold? First of all, we agree that there has been indications given by the World Gold Council also. The number looked higher for this year. And so do we have any solutions? So when actually we talk about illicit gold, the very first thing which we say, reduce the custom duty. But can we look beyond that?
सर ये क्वेश्चन आपको गवर्नमेंट को पूछना चाहिए। पहली बात तो ये आप हमको गलत आदमी को पकड़ रहे हैं। दूसरी बात ये है कि इलिजिबल गोल्ड है। अभी देखो गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने बहुत सारे फॉरेन ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट्स किए हुए हैं। कुछ एलडीएस कंट्री के साथ है जो लिस्ट डेवलपमेंट कंट्रीज है, कुछ एमएफएन नेशंस है जो मोस्ट फेवर नेशंस के साथ हो रहे हैं, कुछ जो चीजें हो रही है अभी जस्ट यूएई के साथ हुआ है।
तो आपको लगता है कि स्मगलिंग का जरूरत ही नहीं है?
देखो सर, हर चीज में हर चीज की गुंजाइश है। आप कभी छोटी गाड़ी में भी जाते हैं तो कभी रोलर कोस्टर राइड में भी जाते हैं, तो रोलर कोस्टर राइड का अलग मजा है। तो बिजनेस में हर चीज होती है, तो आपको पहले बिजनेस समझना चाहिए कि क्या है। और मेरे ख्याल से ये अभी बात करने का टॉपिक हमारे अंतर्गत है ही नहीं।
क्योंकि ये एक स्पेसिफिक सोल्यूशन बियॉन्ड द कस्टम ड्यूटी, क्या लगता है आपको? अगर हमें स्मगलिंग से डील करना है तो क्या सोल्यूशन हो सकता है आपके हिसाब से?
स्मगलिंग कोई आप कुछ भी कर लो, इंडिया में 50 से 80 टन से ज्यादा आने वाला नहीं है, पर इंडिया का डिमांड 800 टन है।
So even if the custom duty is zero, yeah?
कस्टम जीरो भी होगा तो भी 800 टन में 80 टन से ज्यादा नहीं आने वाला है, यानी 10% वो हर कंट्री में वो रहने वाला है।
I'm sure the policy makers will love this statement.
नहीं, डेफिनेटली, क्योंकि ये आप कुछ भी बोलो, कोई 80 टन सोना कोई बहुत बड़ी चीज है सर। ये आप ऐसे कोई भी नंबर्स आप नहीं बोल सकते हो कि इतना ज्यादा स्मगलिंग हो रहा है, ये बात गलत है। मैं मानने को तैयार भी नहीं हूँ सर।
Thank you. Any of you wants to say anything on that? Anything to add on that?
I think there was a discussion lately, शायद maybe a couple of years back, that what if the duty comes to zero and there is a GST regime which comes in. I don't know if that makes any changes to it or not, but a traceability of the whole bullion transaction happens into the country would solve a lot of issues. As the exchequer will come to know that the flow of the whole metal, as he rightly said, the HUID
otherwise also could be
compulsory HUID. So now by the next couple of years, government would have all the data, where the gold is coming from, where the jewelry is going, right? So I think that would be a.
So Shivanshu, you want to add something? Yes.
While I talked about the external elements which are beyond control as such, I must also share here, and because maybe some of us are aware, some are not, we have started on the MCX acceptance of Indian good delivery gold. After the BIS came up with the standard, we built our own carvings around that, including responsible sourcing, technical qualification audits, financial audits. There are 6 refiners, some of them are present here, who have been impaneled. And while we impaneled these under the Make in India or Atmanirbhar Bharat vision of the country, it also helps by way of removal or reduction of disparities. You see, people are able to generate the exchange delivered bar out of the old gold or the scrap and then deliver it. Therefore, we become more Indianized. And I'm happy to share, and I think, where is Srivastava, our friend? This is slightly underplayed. I must make a point here. We've already seen delivery of more than 6 tons in the past year or so period of Indian refined gold on MCX.
I'll come to that specifically on
Sure.
that. Yeah. Any views from the overseas friends of mine?
Well, I think this is a problem most countries deal with. But in my opinion, the solution here is keep the regulations simple that can be interpreted without complicating them and ease the way the business can be done.
And the lower taxation could be also a step in that direction, I would
Well,
say.
I think taxation is a part which I would refrain from making a comment. It's beyond the scope of our this one. But I can definitely say this, that if the regulations are simple and the implementation is simple, it does create
It's
efficiency,
a very good
which should
point.
take away
It's a very
from
good point.
a lot
Thank
of
you.
us.
I think like what Vasubhai was mentioning previously, the certainly it certainly looks, at least anecdotally from what we hear about the news or the headlines on smuggling, it's coming down over the years because of better surveillance, because of better monitoring, etc.
So enforcement is the way to go.
Enforcement. I think that is one of the best solutions, and that has been happening. I certainly feel the government and the authorities have taken large steps towards that. So it is certainly moving in the right direction. Again, with respect to the arbitrage, various arbitrage opportunities or the import duties, I think that is part and parcel of doing business. So the business of the various entities or the various organizations that are part of the Bullion ecosystem here, we always have to be nimble and change ourselves or pivot ourselves according to the changes in the
Thank you. Will give you a lot of opportunities to talk about MCX, because MCX has been the shining star in this year. So what actually you did right, and where do you see the things moving forward for you?
No, I think we are just in service of the industry, bullion and jewelry industry, for some time now, and we're happy to perform in that role. What has been seen probably is that options as an instrument has come of age. I may say that. It was launched in 2017, and we have seen record turnovers in not only gold options or gold mini options, but even the silver options have performed. So to an extent, the usage of this insurance product by jewelers especially is seen on a rise. They are able to participate in the positive side.
Any percentages you want to share, how much growth you have seen?
Very difficult to commit on that, but then the value chain participant tag is something to go by, and I can say that the majority, especially in silver, is the physical industry, who's not only writing options, also hedging, and the retail is where the buyers of options come. And what actually evidences this is that ahead of any global macroeconomic event where uncertainty is at peak, those times we see options volumes going up, so which is a healthy sign. Apart from that, like I mentioned, the Indian gold refined gold is something which is really coming up.
How many refineries are there now in panel there?
So there are 6 refineries, and like I said, about 6 tons short period has been delivered, and it serves to remove disparity, is what I said. So as regards the records or what you were referring to, I think we've seen options on all fronts perform and break the records. But we continue to enable hedging as our role, as our duty, and the duty price paid element along with the international gold prices and the currency, all 3 elements being merged into the price play a role. So we are seeing, we do about 150 to 200 programs with regional jewelry associations. Of course, IVJ is the leading apex one. With them and regional, small cities, towns we go to, and we try to add more and more jewelers into the mainstream. Other than that, we are hopeful that the electronic gold receipts, once this GST aspect is covered, it can actually become the base for various products, including mutual funds, ETFs. We are seeing ETFs based on commodity derivatives already there in place. We are seeing the foreign participants after the SEBI has allowed that. SEBI has really come up with some great reform over the past year or two. One such is the foreign participants. They are already contributing a healthy volume to crude oil and natural gas. And I do hope that in due course, gold and silver will be permitted to them.
So
And
good to know. I think the business looks good as far
Thank
as
you.
MCX is concerned. Moving on. Another significant event that happened last year was the signing of the UAE India SEPA. There has been mixed reactions about that. Uh, is it good for India and UAE or not? We are not going into that. We have also covered an operational aspect, which was very well covered with by Premnath ji and Mr. Gautam. So we are not going into that as well. But looking at the number, we could have potentially imported 110 tons last year at a lower duty of 1%, which is almost about $19 an ounce. I think by any standards, it's a fantastic discount. But we just imported about 8 tons. So what went wrong?
सर यूएई सिपा इंडिया और यूएई के लिए एक बेटर रिलेशनशिप एस्पेक्ट्स है. मैं इसको बहुत पॉजिटिव नज़र से देख रहा हूँ क्योंकि एक बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है जो अरेबिक कंट्री को कवर कर रहा है यूएई. तो उसको अगर हम देखा जाए तो इंडिया से जस्ट मेरे पास रिपोर्ट है यूएई गवर्नमेंट के साथ डीएमसीसी की वेबसाइट कि लास्ट ईयर हमने 38 टन ज्वेलरी एक्सपोर्ट की है और उसके सामने सिर्फ 10 टन गोल्ड इंपोर्ट किया है. यानी 38 टन जब भी ज्वेलरी जाती है तो वो लोग 5% हमको ड्यूटी जीरो करके वो लोग ले रहे हैं. तो यानी वो लोग हमको ज्यादा बेनिफिट दे रहे हैं.
So he's the spokesperson for Dubai now, sir.
या रादर देन हम यूएई से कोई बेनिफिट ले रहे हैं. हमको 1% बेनिफिट है, उसमें भी वो टीआरक्यू लगा रखा है कि जिसमें हमको मैन्युफैक्चरिंग करवाना है, यानी हम एम्प्लॉयमेंट भी देना है. ये
कुछ आपको लगता है कि ऑपरेशनल रेडी नहीं थे हम, उसका एक रीजन हो सकता है?
देखिए ये मीटिंग आप कस्टम के और डीआरआई के ऑफिसर्स के साथ भी करनी चाहिए क्योंकि जितना भी ईज ऑफ बिजनेस करेंगे वो बेटर है. क्योंकि इंडिया से आप रोज के 68 पार्सल दुबई जाते हैं और वो 10 मिनट में छूट जाते हैं क्योंकि वो हमारा सीईओ एक्सेप्ट करते हैं. और इंडिया दुबई से सिर्फ 15 या 18 पार्सल इंडिया आते हैं और गवर्नमेंट यहाँ पे उसके ऊपर सवाल उठाती है. तो ये चीजें अगर बायलैटरल ट्रीटी है
So do you think
गवर्नमेंट
the compliance for metal coming under UAE SEPA is even stringent as compared to the normal consignments?
सर आप गवर्नमेंट जो बेनिफिट इंडियन पीपल ले रहे हैं यूएई से, वो अगर वहां से जो एक्सपोर्टर लेना चाहता है तो वो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट देना नहीं चाहती है. तो ये चीजें दो तरफा होनी चाहिए हमेशा कि रिलेशंस हैं तो वो लोग हमारे लिए 2-4 कदम चलेंगे, हम 2 भी नहीं चलेंगे, 2 पीछे हट जाएंगे. ऐसा नहीं होता है. अच्छा दूसरा चीज है कि इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा बड़ा एमओयू भी नहीं किया. 120 टन से 140 टन है, तो बाकी का 140 टन के अलावा का जो मार्केट है 800 टन का, यानी 550 टन तो हम एलबीए में गुड्स यूज कर रहे हैं. तो उसके लिए हम मना नहीं कर रहे हैं, मगर जो 120 टन भी आ रहा है उसको ईज ऑफ बिजनेस के नजरिए से देखना चाहिए.
तो इस साल लगता है 140 टन हम अचीव हो जाएगा?
देखेंगे सर, अभी भी ये बहुत सारा चीज गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर डिपेंड है. अगेन ये क्वेश्चन आपको गवर्नमेंट को ही करना है रादर देन मी सर.
Thank you. Chirag bhai, anything on silver also if you want to add?
I think the earlier panel where Ashok ji and Premnath ji were presenting about the particular India SEPA. See, I think there's last year, I don't know what happened or what went wrong. Actually, nothing went wrong. What happened is when the TRQ came in, the prices not matching, demands were not there. And there are lots of other factors which could have hampered the total imports of TRQ. This year, I am very much positive, very much optimistic. We'll be able to import 140 tons under India SEPA. There are a couple of clarities which are awaited. Once those clarities come in, I think the 465 kg is given to all the maximum LOTs for the TRQ. I think they'll be able to use it and give it to the market.
Ayyob, anything that Dubai needs to do to make
Yes,
it
of course.
more vibrant?
I agree with the Chirag. It's pretty much on the demand side of the business. But let's not forget, at the beginnings of the SEPA, I think it was to do more with the procedures and costs of importing the metal back into India. I recall one of the very first shipments imported under SEPA stuck for, I think, a month until there was a certain clarities in the rules and regulations. Nowadays, take silver, for example. Silver should be doing very well, exports from the UAE to India under SEPA. Still, some more rules and regulations has to be clarified. We don't see the demand at the best. This is also to do with more paperwork here and uncertainty of the importers on what is the required paperwork that has to be kept for the future, just in case any question raised. So we're trying to work with the Indian customers and able to see how we can come over this issue by working together and finding a clear.
So you think that it is more to do with the procedural issues rather than the pricing?
I think procedure and cost of executing the operations can be a key element for this.
And the risk of compliance also.
Yes, of course.
Thank you. So one important point which actually no one has mentioned, as I mentioned about the arbitrage of $19. Yeah, Vasu bhai wants to come in. Yeah.
जस्ट आई वुड ऐड कल मैं सुन रहा था, सोम सर ने बताया था कि हम गोल्ड और डोरे का पार्सल 5 या 10 15 मिनट या 2-4 घंटे में क्यों क्लियर नहीं करवा सकते हैं. तो ये क्वेश्चन बहुत रिलेवेंट है, क्योंकि आज हमारा जो इंटरेस्ट रेट है, इंडियन इंटरेस्ट रेट है, कोई भी बैंक में 11% के आसपास चल रहा है. तो पर डे का हमारा 1 किलो 60 लाख के ऊपर हमारा 1800 से 2000 रुपया इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट बैठता है. तो ऑलमोस्ट 70 to 80 सेंट्स हम इंटरेस्ट कॉस्ट बेयर कर रहे हैं. अगर गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया इसको क्लियरेंस में नहीं प्रॉपरली डालेंगी, क्योंकि ये बहुत बड़ा बर्डन जो इंपोर्टर है उसके ऊपर आ रहा है. तो ये बहुत जरूरी चीज है कि हम इसमें कुछ फेरफार लाएं. भले ही पार्सल कहीं से भी हो, यूएई से हो या लंदन से हो या स्विट्जरलैंड से हो, उससे कोई लेना देना नहीं है. मगर गोल्ड सिल्वर के जो पार्सल्स हैं उसको इमीडिएट इफेक्ट से क्लियर होना चाहिए, वो बहुत जरूरी है.
2 चीज मैं और ऐड करना चाहता हूँ बिफोर आई कम टू यू अंशुमन. As I mentioned about the arbitrage of $19, that was not good enough for the market. Largely because otherwise everybody would have gone through the pain of all the procedural issues. So maybe because the markets were actually in a heavier discount, and which actually was the case for most of the part. So the second point is for my counterparts from Dubai, the financing of the metal which gets shipped from Dubai. That is also one of the concerns, because you will be able to raise volumes once you are able to provide some kind of financing facility on that. So I think, Anshuman, you want to add something on that now?
On this particular topic, I have 2 aspects to say here. One is when you say a SEPA between UAE and India, it's not limited to precious metals only. It goes far beyond that. So I think, we always look at precious metals only, and different people have different ways of interpreting the benefits or the way they want to look at it. But the fact is, the SEPA is far beyond just precious metals. So that's number one. Number 2 is, historically, if you look at it, India has been importing somewhere around 100 tons of gold from UAE anyway. So it's not that this volumes or anything is going to increase. I don't know if Harish bhai is here, but if he was here, he would be able to add more on this. But so traditionally, UAE has been a big source of feedstock for India refined bars, and I think this is only supposed to enhance that and simplify it. But on the contrary, what we notice, as what the other panelists have rightly pointed out, is despite the fact that you have a certificate of origin from the ministry, the clearance of the shipment takes much longer than when we send a normal shipment. Now, this is something which is something which doesn't make sense in my opinion. Second thing is, there is a concentration about where it can clear. So right now, everybody wants the metal in Chennai because the Chennai customs understands it and they wants to clear it. Whereas actually, this should be a simple process because it's a pan-India thing and it should be available at every single port, but it doesn't happen.
Okay, thank you. So I think we have only 9 minutes more to go. And I want to cover IIBX as well. So why don't we take a poll, as to how many of you have already got yourself registered into this ecosystem, okay? Even with the raise of hands. So, thank you. And you are part of it, so Okay, so I will quickly ask one suggestion from each of you to make it work even better. Each of you, one suggestion, please.
But my take on IBEX is that I think it's too early to start even analyzing to say whether it is a success or not. Because firstly, the exchange has already set up the product, has already launched the product. It has already brought in some new technological and innovations in terms of clearing, which is probably the world first, I understand. But you're only as good as the regulatory support environment. Unless you have an ice skate in place, unless you have banks efficiently remitting money, how can you evaluate that? I mean, MCX is a classic example. Look at the amount of trades that happen on MCX, or I think most of the Indian traders here, we all hedge our positions on MCX. That's because there's efficiency built around it. So once that is built, I think probably for the next year's conference, this would be a better idea to do the poll rather than now.
Yeah, so I think very well said by Mr. Anshuman. I think it's too early to, first of all, say whether IIBX is a success or not. I think, and this is probably...
No, we are not even discussing that. So we are still in the
correct. So
phase
it's
where
in
we are
very
building
infancy stages, and we recently had several discussions with the regulatory authority at GIFT, and there is a lot of intent from the banks or the banking community, the bullion banking community, to participate in IIBX. I think what will enable or what will hasten that process is at the moment our counterparts are primarily the Indian banks. So how the Indian banks can also be made part of the ecosystem of IIBX.
So IIBX as a counterparty is again not a bad bet.
No, it's not at all. But see, the volume and the liquidity comes with. Yeah.
Yep.
So the volume and the liquidity, which has to multiply several folds over the next few years, will have to come when both, has to be supplied by our customers at the moment, who are primarily the banks. If they can also participate, that will improve. I'm not saying that that's probably the only requirement, but that
so
will
is there
obviously
something
enhance.
which the exchange can do actually?
No, the exchange probably can work more with the IFSCA or the authorities to try and get as many more participants on both sides, and which they are doing. So it's not that they're not doing that by any means. For us particularly, we are looking internally. We are going through the process of trading and transacting on IIBX primarily as a supplier to start with, and then as the exchange evolves, our sort of participation will also evolve over a period of time.
Thank you. Ayyob. One suggestion.
I think again, let's look at the cost of executing the operation.
Also, so no issues. Even if you agree with any of the views.
I totally agree, 100%. But again, we need to emphasize on the cost and procedures of importation.
Thank you.
So if you just look at a bit of the timeline, IIBX and IFSCA has already achieved so many milestones, so many hurdles. And I'm sure the kind of aggression, the kind of enthusiasm as Mr. Gautam personally and IFSCA, the whole being a part of the regulator, they're taking a very aggressive and a very spontaneous steps. Every week there is a ground reality feedback which is going on their desk, and there is a brainstorming happening, that there's something or the other happening, right? So after achieving so many milestones at Gift City, I'm sure there are things more fascinating coming into the market.
Thank you.
बेसिकली मैं गुजरात रीजन से रहा हूँ. मैं IIBX के लिए मैं ये बोल रहा हूँ, ये कभी न हुआ न होगा. ये इतना अच्छा चीज इंडियन गवर्नमेंट ने गिफ्ट किया है हमको कि इसके इतने ज्यादा फायदे हैं कि लोग समझ नहीं पाएंगे. बेसिकली क्या है कि आज 3 दिसंबर 1997 को जब भी गोल्ड OGL में हुआ, उसके 25 साल बाद एक नया पॉलिसी बना जहां क्वालिफाइड ज्वेलर डायरेक्ट इंपोर्टर हो सकते हैं. तो ये बेनिफिट सबसे बड़ा है. एक ही साल में लास्ट ईयर मेरे ख्याल से जुलाई महीने में मोदी साहब ने हमारे ये इसका इनोग्रेशन किया था. तो आज एक ही साल में इसने आइस गेट को अचीव किया, TRQ होल्डर्स को ऑन बोर्ड किया, बहुत सारे चीजें.
एक सजेशन कोई अगर आपको लगता
मेरे
है?
हिसाब से ये लास्ट नेक्स्ट ईयर मेरे ख्याल से बेस्ट बुलियन एक्सचेंज का
अभी
अवार्ड
जैसा कर रहे हैं
IIBX को
आपको
जाने
लगता है
वाला
कि
है,
ठीक है, they are on
ये
the
मेरा
right track.
गारंटी है.
Okay, thank you. You can give actually two suggestions also, being on the board as well.
Sure. No, I think firstly, at the cost of repetition, it is the best or the greatest initiative of the Government of India, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Commerce and IFSCA. I don't think there is any historical record of so many steps being taken in about a year or so. And we being, promoters of IIBX, there is a slight emotional connect. And I can share with you that out of the 90 plus qualified dwellers, maybe 99% or 95% have been contributed by my team, by MCX. We strongly support this vision. Now, as far as suggestions are concerned, you see, partly SEPA represents a captive volume which today or tomorrow, and Ashok can corroborate operationally, which will come by way of IIBX. Again, the disparities have to go away. If we want to see these type of spot exchanges are normally policy driven as well. You look at Shanghai, you look at Borsa Istanbul. Policy is an important role. If at some stage there is a mandate of routing all gold through the IIBX, it would actually spell success. Tremendous efforts have already been done by government and by the teams. And like Vasubhai said, IceGate versus SEZ Online. They talk to each other now. I'm sure the non-qualified jeweler TRQs will be added sooner or later. There are some operational
So basically what you're saying is that sorting out all the procedural issues which are delaying the things.
Yeah. And also if there can be a
also-
singular unilateral view on mandate, routing and duty and these, multitudes of, agreements. If there can be some view, then this exchange can do
So
well.
I can safely say, like IFSCA, I don't know if somebody is there from IFSCA here, one of the most receptive regulators which we have in the country and lately.
Yes.
And so I think we are in the right hands. And that's how the future of India's bullion trade looks like. The Indian gold story is intact. And with that, I will wrap up. If you have anything to say, please feel free. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right, and everyone, let's put our hands up in the air. And thank you so much, sir, for sticking within the timeline and yet making it so interesting.